The California primary happened yesterday, and as explained by Ronnie Ligo, editor-in-chief of Weekend Balita earlier in the show, this leads to the November election. Marami po ang energized, marami po ang gustong bumoto, but this has some immigration complications, and we're going to be talking about that right about now sa ating American Dream.
This American Dream segment is brought to you by Aquino & Lowe Law Firm, answering your immigration questions.
Attorney Richard Lowe, hello and welcome to Kababayan, LA.
Hello.
Let's talk about voter fraud, and some people may not even be aware that they are committing voter fraud because what is the law?
Well, what happens is that people who have been here since they were young, oftentimes they don't realize that they're not citizens or that they're not allowed to vote because they've grown up here, and they just expect that they can just participate like their friends and their peers. And this particularly happens in college when you're walking down the campus and somebody says, hey, do you want to register to vote? And they do. So that's where this kind of case typically arises. We don't usually see the case where somebody willfully goes out and says, I'm going to vote even though I know I shouldn't.
Right, because right now we're making it clear that if you are not a citizen, you cannot vote, you cannot register to vote. What I'm thinking is, when you register, don't they know that you're not allowed to vote?
Well, during the registration process, you're not actually providing proof of your citizenship. Normally, you're just either filling out a card and then you're just checking whatever boxes and they're taking that in. Nobody's really checking to see whether or not it's in fact you're a citizen. And that's why there's sometimes people inadvertently do things that they don't realize that they're not supposed to be doing.
And let us make this clear, only citizens, U.S. citizens are allowed to vote now. It says here that legal permanent residents who accidentally register and vote can be subject to removal, but the problem can be fixed during the naturalization process. How is that?
Well, sometimes people are legal permanent residents and they vote accidentally, as we talked about. And there are provisions in the law, especially if you can show that it was accidental, you only did it once, that when you go through the citizenship process, even though you're technically removable and technically you could be put into proceedings, that they will exercise what's known as prosecutorial discretion. We've talked about this before.
Right.
And sort of weigh, your time here in the U.S., the circumstances under which you voted, and allow you to proceed through to your naturalization.
So narrow exception for those individuals whose parents are both U.S. citizens,
yes,
and who legally resided in the U.S. before the age of 16, and they probably didn't know. And this is something that happens also among Filipino families when parents, because they're probably embarrassed to tell their kids what they did, kids don't know that they're here illegally, right?
That's absolutely correct. I have a lot of clients who walk into my office and don't realize until they're in their 20s when they have to do something like go to college or something that they're not citizens, that they're not actually allowed to be in the United States. And so this is the kind of situation where they may have participated, as I said, in some activity that would require them to register to vote, and maybe even voted without even realizing that they weren't supposed to.
Okay, last two questions. It says here, if you are a permanent resident and you want to legally vote in November's election, you need to apply now. So what does that mean? Can we apply? Or?
If you're a legal permanent resident and you're eligible to become a U.S. citizen, the time to do it is now if you want to vote in the November election.
Okay.
Because the window to do that is it's taken about 3 to 4 months to process those applications. So if you do it right now, you could finish that process conceivably before the November elections.
This is what I don't understand. Okay, let's say a green card holder, but you still need, you fulfill, 5 years of residing here, and you're on your second year of residing here as a legal permanent resident. Can you register to vote for November?
Absolutely not. You have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to go through the oath ceremony process before you can vote. So if you're eligible now, if you've been here 5 years, or if you're married to a U.S. citizen, been here 3 years, and you've been putting off, yes, now is the time to do it. If you want to vote for November and you're eligible, you want to do it now, or it'll be too late next month.
I'd say be safe and just stick to not voting first until you get your U.S. citizenship.
Absolutely.
For those people that, unfortunately didn't know and voted, let's say they registered for the election yesterday and voted yesterday, what kind of relief? They're probably, nervous now, anxious. What's going to happen to them?
Well, probably nothing immediately. Like I said, there's not really a lot of people looking at the exact names and saying, okay, this person's not a U.S. citizen. But eventually, they could be impacted when you're coming in or out of the United States. If that situation becomes known to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, you could be denied entry. So if you've done that, it's very important to consult with an attorney to see how that can be fixed, and so that you can sort of go on with your life without having to worry about this hanging over your head.
And the attorneys that I trust are our attorneys Alison Aquino and attorney Richard Lowe. Actually, they helped me get my green card, my legal permanent resident status here in the U.S. Thank you so much. So that's the number to call on the screen if you want to schedule your one-on-one consultation. They also do phone and email consultations. Thank you, and more power to you. More on Kababayan LA, the spiritual awakening of Manny Pacquiao. Even I was amazed the way he flipped through his Bible with ease. Memorize niya po kung saan yung mga verses sa Bible. We'll show you that when we return. Don't go away.